Own it, own it, own it, Kong. I own it. It did.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
Hey, 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 welcome to Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Of course, I am your girl, Stephanie Hardy, host and creator of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, host and writer for Women's Wrestling Talk, and color commentator for the Belladonna Division, Battle Club Pro, and Black Girl Magic 2. And I am not alone. I am so happy to introduce to the interview space of Women's Wrestling Talk, Shay Sawyer. She is one of the hosts for Unpopular Review and the pop culture podcast.
Yeah.
She can say the name of it a lot better than I can because it is new. But either way, welcome, Shay. Thank you for joining me. How are you, Shay?
I am really, really excited right now. So yeah, that's where I'm at. How are you?
I'm doing great. And I am more than sure that you will do a fantastic job in your first time interviewing on Women's Wrestling Talk, and you will continue to do a fantastic job as you matriculate through our network. It's going to be fine. But of course, sitting with us is a special guest. She is an accomplished wrestler and ultimate badass in her own right. You've seen her on AEW Dark and Dark Elevation. You've also seen her on NWA USA and recently on Impact Wrestling. She is a fantastic champion. Her name is Missa Kate. How are you, Missa?
Good. How are you? You got it. You caught yourself.
Yes, I did. Like, even when I do make mistakes, I always make it my business to clean it up. So yeah.
That happens. But thanks for having me, and congrats on this being your first show, by the way. So
You're my first.
It's memorable, right?
Yes. So I'm going to start by asking you, Missa, when did you fall in love with wrestling?
So I always say I have two first matches that I saw. First match that I ever saw was actually John Cena's debut, which ironically was in Chicago, which is where I'm from. Poetry, right? And it was his debut match against Kurt Angle. At the time, I was watching it with my grandfather, who was blind, so he couldn't see what was going on, but he heard, and he came from Europe, so thick accent, I'm not going to try to duplicate because it'll be bad, but pretty much overheard it, was like, no, don't watch this, you're gonna die, turn that off, you're gonna have a hole in your stomach and all this stuff. And again, I was like, no, that was 2002, so I was around like 6 years old, something like that. So as a 6-year-old, I'm like, well, I don't want to fucking die. So I'm like, I'm going to stop watching this. Later on, found out he meant like get an ulcer, because again, he watched from the time of Gorgeous George and all that stuff where they're like betting. So it was very serious. They weren't in on, it's not as real as it was back then, right? So second first match I ever saw was in Spanish. It was Edge versus Matt Hardy in a ladder match. It was the match, the loser had to like stayed on Raw, loser got fired, whatever. Now, this was also during the time when the little relationship stuff was going on, right? So Lita was on Edge's side, and I didn't know the backstory to any of this, but I just remember seeing her, and I was like, oh, like she was getting involved in the match and all that stuff. So I was just like, after I saw that, I was just kind of hooked. Like seeing John Cena, I was like, damn, this dude's hot. But then I didn't want to die, so then I stopped watching. And then when I saw Lita, I was definitely like, oh, okay, like she's related, because again, growing up a tomboy, I was the one getting with the guys, wrestling with them in the snow and all that stuff. And a lot of girls that I knew weren't the same way. So seeing her do it, I was like, okay, I'm not alone. Somebody else is a crazy little girl like me. So it was cool.
Well, that's really cool. That is how you got into it. It's like you got into it during the ruthless aggression era, and that's a really solid era, outside of like after the attitude era and stuff like that. And it's funny how you would watch it, with your family, and your family was like, "No, don't do it," or all of that. But you just couldn't help but be drawn to it, and that's just how wrestling pulls you in. And of course, watching the crazy rivalry between Matt and Edge, that had to be crazy. But yeah, it's a very solid place to start for you.
Which explains a lot, like, I feel like move wise and like character wise. When I tell everybody that, they're like, "Oh, ruthless aggression." I can't talk. Ruthless aggression era, like, yeah, it explains a lot now. I'm like, yeah. So
All right. Well, then I will shoot my question now. So, I recently saw you had a match with Madi on NWA USA, and you guys killed it. But you also kind of had an issue. You guys were kind of tagging, but then things kind of went the wrong way. Talk to me a little bit about that match and how you felt, because I thought it was a really, really good match and it was well received. So I just want to hear a little bit about how you felt after it.
Thank you. So yeah, there's a little bit of a miscommunication. She thought that I hit her, or I purposely had her hit. Don't really to this day know the confusion. Working on figuring that out. Maybe we'll go to a couple therapy sessions. But yeah, so we handled it in the ring, as you guys saw. And I had to knock some sense into her with my foot. And I think now we're kind of moving in a positive direction. So, but yeah, just that was my first ever, well, I can't say that was the first pay-per-view that I was on, because I was on the previous pay-per-view for NWA, but the previous pay-per-view was more of a Rumble style match, where this was like, no, I actually had a match on a pay-per-view. So that was really cool, and that was really interesting. And for me to have it with Madi, her and I are similar in a lot of senses, so it's just as far as like thought processes and like our goals and wrestling and whatnot. So pretty much me and her tagging makes a lot of sense, and it's really cool that it ended up happening. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to see what the future holds with us. We have some things in play, like in store, so excited.
Okay, I like that.
And in talking about your goals, just to kind of go back to the beginning of your career, when did you decide to pursue wrestling as a career? And did you ever imagine that you would be in a team, or that you would just, be a solo player?
So before I started wrestling, I actually wish I started earlier than I did. I started around 21 years old, I believe. And that was because I wanted to have like go through college and stuff like that. And I actually took a year off, and on that year off is when I was working, so I needed money. But then that's also when I decided to pursue wrestling. Another reason why I pushed back on it is because, unfortunately, growing up, it wasn't, or at least for like me or maybe the people that I was around, it wasn't the cool thing. So I got a little bullied here and there, and because of that, I was like, wrestling's stupid. I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want anything to do with it. But secretly behind closed doors, I was watching every Monday night and like YouTubing stuff. So it was just in public. I was like, I don't like this shit. What are you talking about? But eventually it was one of those things, like, I'm a type of person that I'm in. I don't like having regrets. And I do believe in we only have one life. So why not do what you want? Why not try something? And if it doesn't work out, then okay, what's the worst that's going to happen is you realize you don't like it. And I was okay with accepting that. And I would have accepted that better than not doing this at all, because then you have that question in your mind, oh, what if? That would have drove me insane. So when I did decide to finally do it, it was insane. I remember I didn't want to get in the ring because it was like, mind you, where this ring was did not have this feel. This was just me being like, oh my God, I'm by a ring. The first ring I ever trained in is actually like a 2-flat house. There's a family that lives above, but the ground level has a gym in the front, a wall with a door, and then the ring in the other half of the house. So very low ceilings. But again, I was by a ring and I remember standing there and one of the trainers was like, you could come in the ring. And I was like, okay. So like I slowly as I could like walked in 1 foot at a time. It's like this weird like aura feeling. I'm like, I'm in a ring right now because I've never been in one at that point. So that was really cool. And then as far as like seeing myself as a singles or a tag team, I actually clicked with 2 guys that I started training with, Ari Akuma and Jax Johnson. And we have always wanted to have this trios because we're all fans of Team Extreme, where we wanted to be this trios. And fortunately, it has not happened yet. Ari and I have tagged in the past. So, and he just came back to wrestling finally. So we're hoping to move forward and maybe become a trios that we want to be. So I did want to be involved in a tag. I didn't realize it was going to be a female tag. But again, that's cool to me because I'm like, it's something else to learn. It's something new, more stories to tell and all that fun stuff. So I'm not mad at it.
All right. Well, I have a question. So you have a finisher. It's called the Kick-fil-A.
Yes.
What inspired this name, and also what inspired the move in general? Like, what made you go for, I want to kind of do like, kick heads in, like what gave that?
So I love it. See, you know where I'm coming from. Exactly that. I want to kick people's faces off. So when I played soccer for like 20 years, and so I've always had strong legs and pretty nimble and stuff like that. And I did kickboxing for a year or so. So when I started training wrestling, and it was like getting closer to like, oh, you're probably gonna have a match soon. I had no idea. Like I wasn't thinking about finishers or anything because my brain was just like, okay, absorb as much information as you can learn. And I wasn't expecting to have a match soon, so I was like, just learn. So finally somebody presented to me like, hey, you gotta think of a finisher, and I was like, oh crap. So we're just kind of going over my background, and when I explained the kickboxing, we're going over a couple different kicks, and that was one of them that I did, and everyone I guess liked it, and they're like, there's your finish. And then one of the coaches made every single person at practice line up so I could kick all the faces off. As far as the Kick-fil-A, I think you could take a pretty good guess of where it came from. I'm a white girl. I like Chick-fil-A. Like, come on. So yeah, but Chick-fil-A sauce, it's like awesome. So yeah, I was like Chick-fil-A, and I can't take full credit to that. My trainer, Bryce Benjamin, we were joking around one day, and we were trying to come up with a name, and he said it jokingly, and I was like, okay, well, I'm using that as my finisher. So that's how it came about. Well, mainly because I kept eating a lot of Chick-fil-A, so that's how it came about. That's where the joke came from. So, yeah.
That'll do it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that makes me hungry.
I know, man. I know. I'm like, damn, why you gotta be closed on Sundays? It's always the worst. It's always the day I'm like, I have shows on Sundays, and I'm like, that's the perfect thing that I need, and they're always closed. I always have a taste for it only on Sundays now. Not fair.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. It's like the one thing you want, you can't have it on that one specific day. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But in talking about your journey though, which is really cool, what your journey is like with combat sports, what is when you began wrestling, like and when you began your training, what was some of the best advice that you got as you started?
I've been fortunate enough to be surrounded by a bunch of cool people, so I get a lot of good advice all the time. But starting out, kind of just always keep learning, I guess, because wrestling has millions and millions of moves, millions and millions of psychology tricks, and you could go this way, you could go that way. There's so many different combinations of what you can do and stuff like that. So I guess just always keep learning, because there's the only wrong way in wrestling is, excuse me, I burped. The only wrong way in wrestling is if you're hurting somebody, or if you're intentionally trying to hurt somebody. Other than that, there's not necessarily a right or wrong in wrestling. It's all perspective. So I'm very aware I'm an anomaly as a person, and I've been told I'm an enigma. So that's again why I'm a Jeff Hardy fan, right? Team Extreme. So my brain works very differently. Yeah, there you go. Very differently than a lot of people. So for me, trying to make certain things come across can be difficult sometimes, because again, my brain works faster than my mouth wants to move. So it's like a mix of, okay, I'm trying to get this idea out that I could tell you're not understanding. On top of that, I'm talking way too fast and I'm cutting out stuff that probably shouldn't be. But I guess, yeah, that's one of the main things. And then there's I guess just mainly just learn, and just kind of how they say in wrestling, you want to be you to the million or whatever. So character wise, I was always told, like, hey, just keep doing you, and amplify and get exaggerated, and maybe, and obviously throw in some stuff that's not really you, but let's blur the line there and let's make it fun. So it's always fun making you guys guess, oh, is this how she really is, or is this an act? So you're never gonna know.
I love that. All right, so I wanted to know, what are the goals that you have in place for yourself moving forward in your wrestling career?
I definitely want to go to Japan. I want to go to the UK, but I definitely want to go to Japan, not just have matches there. I want to learn in both places, the UK and Japan. I've heard from a couple people that have been there, like their experiences. Queen Aminata, has told me about her times and stuff there, and I'm like, I want to go get my ass beat in the most best way possible. But yeah, it's just traveling, I guess, is something that I really want to do. And you did say earlier, I've actually never been to Impact yet. It's on my bucket list goal. So that's another one of mine. Yeah, so I'm like, I've been fortunate that I've done NWA, I've done AEW, now I got Impact, and I got WWE, so I got 2 more left that I want to hit like, well, it's not a trifecta, a quadfecta? We call it a quadfecta, right? I guess. But yeah, so those are my goals, I guess, moving forward, is kind of traveling, again, learning, because there's so many different styles in the world. I've yet to go to the East Coast and the West Coast. I'm pretty much mainly Midwest. Been to Florida a little bit. But yeah, I mean, just, I don't know, wrestling's cool, man. There's so many different styles. Canada, like, is another place to go. Like, Mexico is another place to go if I don't get murdered. So yeah, there's just like so many different places like I want to go and learn, and people to wrestle and stuff like that.
That's cool. It seems like you are a readiness to learn.
Breaking up a little bit. I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry. Oh no, did she freeze?
Oh no. Are we back? Are we okay?
Your voice is back right now.
Okay. You're coming back. We're bringing you back.
You're coming back. It's like a slow, like, you're coming back now.
Yeah, I'm trying. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry for that.
It's not your fault.
So sorry for that glitch. Yeah.
Oh no. We're losing her.
Ma'am. Maybe I'll just ask you. Should I?
Well.
She sounds like a robot.
Internet, phone home.
words, yeah.
Trying to phone home. All right.
I am so upset.
There you
I'm
go.
sorry, guys.
You're okay. It's not your fault. Like I said, internet sucks.
Okay, you're back. You're back.
Yes. Okay. So, let me figure out where I was even at. So, how
Sorry.
do you feel about the state? How do you feel about the state of women's wrestling and what's good about it and what can be improved about it?
I feel like right now women's wrestling is hot as it has ever been in our history. So that's really cool. The downfall of that is that because it's so popular, there are a lot of females right now getting thrown into having matches way before they're ready to. So it's kind of like because of that now they're getting pushed and going to travel other places and they're inexperienced. So for somebody who is at my level right now, I guess, like, don't get me wrong, like I love having matches with new girls and stuff, and it's cool to me that they think I could teach them stuff. I'm like, oh, thank you. But at the same time, I guess in my head, I'm always like, yeah, I want to get better. And I'm like, iron sharpens iron, and not saying that working those women is not going to make me better, because again, they probably have stuff, and happens all the time. They have stuff to teach me that I don't know. But I guess I want to be challenged in a different way right now. Like I'm craving it. But because being a women's wrestler right now is like I don't want to use the word trend, but kind of like it's popular. It's a popular thing right now. So a lot of trainers are just throwing them out there, which now can be dangerous to both people involved, or whoever's involved in matches. And on top of that, it kind of, I don't want to say lessons because that's not a shitty way of saying it, but you're kind of bringing their value down as well as the person that they're having matches with a little bit, because you could have trained this girl for a longer period of time, so she would have got more reps in and more practice, and she could have went out there like hit the ground running and just a lot better than what they're currently at. Again, and this is me also speaking from experience. This is something that's happened to me where now I'm finally at a place where I'm like, I feel comfortable enough to say these things and be able to be like, okay, I want to have a match with that person. I want to learn and all this other stuff. And again, speaking from experience, it sucks because you always feel like you're forever playing catch up. So, I guess that's kind of where I am right now. Like, again, women's wrestling as a whole has taken off, which is great because now there's a lot of eyes on us, but it's a double-edged sword. Now there's a lot of eyes on us. So now it's like more of that pressure of like, all right, don't fuck up. What do you guys got? Now and again, everybody knows the internet, and between like people commenting on like weight or like this thing or the other thing and yada yada yada. And there's a lot of stuff of like, you don't know other people's backgrounds. You don't know what they're going through behind the scenes. So for all you know, like I had like a health issue and I'm like, I've gained weight because of it. I'm not in my shape how I would like to be. So I'm like, yeah, but a lot of people don't know that. They just see a picture clip or something. Personally, I don't give a shit because I'm just like, go fuck yourself if you're going to be that asshole. But I know a lot of other girls it does bother. And there's unfortunately like eating disorders that become of that and stuff like that. And that's not cool to me. Because who are you sitting at home on your phone, probably not doing anything with your life, to go comment on this girl's picture and you know it's gonna probably affect her? Like that's not cool, dude. Or even girls. Girls are sometimes meaner than the guys. So, but yeah, it's like I said, it's a double-edged sword. It's cool because I'm like, yeah, we're getting pushed. So we have more opportunities now, more time on shows, sometimes, not always, but then because the inexperience comes out, so now people want to kind of pull us back a little bit and be like, oh, see, they're not really as much of a hype as they say. It's like, no, if you gave us proper training, we would be, but you know, you kind of said, figure it out. So we're all trying to figure it out. That's my rant.
A good rant. It was a good rant. And I think you look fantastic, by the way. I just want to say that.
Oh, you're sweet. Thank you.
I mean it.
Oh,
So you already in the beginning kind of said that, seeing Lita was, a big thing for you, but what were some other women in wrestling that really inspired you to, move into wrestling?
um, it's weird because it was like a mix of the guys and the girls. But as far as girls, like of course Trish Stratus, Victoria is someone who is very underappreciated. I feel like Mickey James obsessed with, um, AJ Lee, Medusa, obviously Bull Nakano, going back a little bit. Um, Rockin' Robin was somebody who was way ahead of her time. Um, who else was there? I am actually a fan of Sunny's manager work. She was a really good manager. Yeah. China, of course, is another one. There's so many. There's so many. Like I could just go on and be like, oh, this girl was really good at this. This chick was really good at this. So yeah, it's just all across the board. Like I have a lot of inspiration, and it's funny sometimes, and it's really cool to me that people can point it out. Like I could tell you're a fan of this person. I can tell you got that from this person. And I'm just like, yeah, maybe. So, like I said, I'm a nerd. I love wrestling, so anything that I can kind of get some kind of inspiration from and try to tweak it and make it my own, I'm gonna try to do because yeah, why not? It's like paying homage in a way.
That's beautiful. So who would you say Yes. So who would you say are some of your dream opponents? Because you did talk about, how you have been able to travel a little bit throughout the United States and it's your dream to travel out to Japan or to Mexico,
Mhm.
to say as you so eloquently put it, get your ass kicked. But who would you say are your dream opponents as you continue to move throughout your career?
Um, Amanada is definitely on the top. Kylan King is somebody that's been killing it. Um, Taya Valkyrie is another one. Chelsea Green's another one. Mickey James is another one. She's going on a retirement tour. Hello. I'll be a stop. I don't care. Um, uh, it's hard. There's a lot. I want to have. I've been fortunate enough to have like little tastes here and there of like Emmy from AEW, Sheeta, and Ruby, but I'm like, no, I want to one day have a full match with each of these women. Just from being in the ring with them and just learning the little bit that I have and just the fun that I did have wrestling with them. I'm like, it's interesting. I'm interested to see what we could do having a full match.
Okay, I like that. Yes. So my question is, when you first came into this, what was the vibe you were trying to give? Like, everyone has a gimmick or like, a type of, style they want people to, okay, this is what you do. This is how like what was that? Like what were you trying to project? What did you want it to project to, your fans?
So it's weird. As believe it or not, so the whole Nikki Bella gimmick, at some point I have it drawn in one of my books somewhere. That was gonna be my gimmick like growing up. And then Nikki Bella came around, I was like, okay, can't do that. Shotzi, um, so like she accidentally is like what I was thinking of. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Mischief from she used to shimmer and stuff like that. Yeah. She's
No.
bad. Yep. So I got some inspiration from her and I wanted to do like the green hair and green's my favorite color and all this stuff. Shotzi came out and I was like, damn. Uh but so I'm like, I keep getting screwed, but everything happens for a reason, right? That means it wasn't for me. So kind of when I again first started, I got thrown in, so I was just kind of like, I don't know what I am. I don't even know what I'm doing. So the only thing I could think of is I was like a fan of bands at the time and stuff like that. And I used to skateboard when I was younger with my older guy cousins because I grew up around guys. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll be like some kind of like skater chick thing. And then because I incorporated checkers in my gear, people were thinking I was trying to be like a NASCAR driver. And I was like, no. I was like, I know I drive like one in real life, but no. um, but yeah, so I guess that was the one that I was trying to B is like, oh, be like the skater chick or something. And then I saw Jody Threat. Jody Threat's another one I want to have another match with anyway. But Jody Threat came out with a skateboard and stuff. And I was like, to me, I'm like, oh, it's disrespectful copying somebody else's gimmick. So that's when I like slowly was like, all right, well, I got to figure something else out. And there was like a short time period where I just was coming up with gear. Like I had 2 sets of gear, like my Joker gear and my newspaper gear. I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I was like, I'm wearing sneakers and rest of this is my gear for now. Until recently, now I'm becoming who I am, which is my wonderful, obnoxious shit show self. So yeah, it's very interesting. I right now, I'm in my, what is it called? Not Charmeleon phase. I like to say I'm in my Charmeleon phase.
Okay, so it seems like you're a Pokemon fan, number one. And then number two, it seems like you've gone through a lot of, evolution and sort of figuring out, what best fits you. And it's so funny that a lot of the things that you thought you wanted to do always wound up being placed on somebody else. But at least in the midst of that, it caused you to actually start being a little bit more creative and finding what's actually you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good that you never, quit or just let that, stop you or let that get in your way. So I'm glad that you were able to continue to get those creative juices flowing and it resonates with your fans.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, like I said, everything happens for a reason, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I want to ask you one last question. If you had the opportunity to sign with a major mainstream promotion, which one would it be and why?
Honestly, and my answer to this is always the company that has the widest, most viewing audience. Because again, for me, I'm like, I want to be with the company that I can reach as many people as possible, because then that means I'm doing my job. Not disrespect to any other, companies or anything like that ever, but it's just always been my dream of like, hey, I want to entertain people. I want, Lita was somebody for me. Maybe I could be somebody for that person. And to me, the best way to do that is with the widest audience. So I guess, yeah, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to say no to other places now. Let's be smart about this. But yeah, I know there's so many companies and there's so much wrestling right now, so I'm not going to be butthurt by any offer, if any ever come my way. I just anywhere that I can be creative and kind of be myself and be my character and have fun with whoever I'm wrestling with and kind of maybe push the boundaries a little bit here and there, break a couple ceilings, maybe literally and metaphorically. But yeah, so I don't know. Like I said, I'm wrestling nerd, so anything that I can play around with, I'm down to do.
All right. Well, my last question is a little bit not as serious.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if you watched Twilight, but this is a very important question. Are you Team Jacob or Team
Jacob?
Good. This is good. Okay.
Oh,
We
I
are
love him.
people.
I
Yeah.
love him. Bro, Edward's so it's like, have you watched, either of you guys watched Vampire Diaries?
Yes.
Okay,
No,
Damon
I
or
have
Stefan?
not.
You never watched it? Oh,
No.
you gotta watch it. It's better than Twilight. It's better than Twilight.
Okay. Okay.
It's on
I'll take
TV.
your word for it.
You just get through the first corny season and then but it's still interesting. But you've seen it, right? So who's your man?
See, mine is
Damon, right? Damon, yes. I love him. I love him. There's something wrong with us. We're going after the bad boys.
yeah, see, for me, when it comes to Twilight, my guy actually is Jacob, for real.
Hell yeah. See? You'd like Damon too, I think.
Yeah, I guess so. But it's just like Jacob to me seems like he was more likely he had like the better heart and he wasn't seeking to fully like control Bella. And then he had the better body and he was warm. So,
Mhm.
so to me, like that was the better choice. But
And I'm
know,
like, you get a boyfriend and a pet. It's a win-win situation.
not a boyfriend and a pet, Lord. I never thought of it that way. But that's a really big pet though, because those wolves were not like your average everyday wolves. Those were advanced wolves.
Very
I
big.
want a dog like that. Like they have, dude. If there's a way that I could have like a hyena or something as a pet, I'd have it. They have. I forgot where. I don't know if it's called like some Alaskan wolf, husky, Siberian, yada yada yada. It's like a long ass title, but they have dogs that are like huge, and I'm like, I want like 5 of those, and I could ride them to like get like a little like. I don't even gotta get a saddle, just like ride them places. Ain't nobody gonna mess with you if you got that size dog around. Like, come on.
Now, if I'm being honest, I want a dragon. Not
Oh
to watch the
yes,
House of the Dragon. I want a dragon. Okay, if we could ride dragons, do you know how lit life would be?
yes, agreed. Why do you think Charmander and Charmeleon and Charizard? That's my favorite Pokemon is that evolution. I was obsessed with dragons when I was younger too. Dragons and pirates and stuff like that. Yeah.
Like pirates.
Yeah, pirates are cool.
Mhm.
But for now, we're gonna move out of the interview section and we're gonna go to our fun section, which we call our rapid hot tags, where we ask fun questions. So I'm gonna ask you, who is your favorite musical artist of all time?
I'm the worst at picking favorites, so I'm sorry. This is probably gonna go horribly. I'm gonna be by default say Justin Bieber, and I know that surprises a lot of people because they're like, "You're a Bieber fan?" Yes, I'm not just a Bieber fan. I'm a Bieber head, and I created that first Twitter page that said Bieber heads that got canceled, that got reinstated, Bieber heads 2, and Oprah gave me a shout out. So just so we can talk about that. Anyway. But no, just he is, and it's not just the whole like, oh, he was cute. And I started watching him at YouTube when he was YouTube. So screw all these other bitches that came in later. Um, but no, he's always been talented as far as like he could play piano and guitar, and I don't know if any of you guys watch any of his like behind the scenes stuff. And I know he had like a little thing going on YouTube for a while. And just watching him just be very like precise about, no, this has to be like right here, no, this note has to be right here, oh, we gotta take it down, no, that sounds like shit, we gotta. So I'm not saying same thing, so please don't, anybody who watches this, don't kill me, relax. But the producers that have worked with Justin said like, hey, he reminds them of how Michael Jackson used to be behind the production side, being like, hey, no, like this, we got to really tweak, stuff like that. Again, very different. I'm aware, but relax. But still, I'm like, he's very talented all the way, like across the board, and he could dance. So he's got to get more meat on him, and then we can, I'll date you, but you got to get a little bigger. I
That's
can't be
valid. My
body
sister
slamming to
loved
my
him.
boyfriend. That's not how this works.
It's okay. My sister really loved him, so I know everything you just said. I know, so I get it. I get it. Trust me, I get it.
Oh, good. See, at least you kind of understand.
If you have time to safely make a final dash to save one item in your home, what would it be?
Oh God, I have no clue. Honestly, probably my gear, cause it would have to be my gear, cause I'm like, one, worth a lot of money for how much I put into it. But yeah, so it would have to be the gear and the shoes. If I could take all my shoes, that would be. I'll figure it out. I'm taking all my shoes.
That's a good choice. If you were able to live to the age of 90 and retain either the mind or body of a 30-year-old for the last 60 years of your life, which would you want?
Um, Probably body, just for the simple fact of I'm a, I'm already a couple surgeries in, so I'm gonna need that feeling like a 30-year-old body when I'm at that age because, I'm like, my mind goes, that's not my problem. I don't have to deal with it.
I get it. Yeah, I completely get that.
That's a good answer. It makes sense too. Yeah. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Read people's minds.
Yes.
Saves me a lot of bullshit. A lot of bullshit. But I have to be able to turn it on and off. It can't be like one of those where I hear everybody's all the time and it drives me nuts. It has to be like, all right, we're making eye contact. All right, I know what you're really thinking and you're lying to me. Oh, this is gonna get fun. So yeah, definitely that. Either that or like I'm a big fan of Charmed. So yep.
Yes.
So I love like kind of like Phoebe. She's probably my favorite. I liked Piper. I don't know, I like Phoebe and Piper for different reasons. But yeah, so I like the freezing and the exploding stuff with the hands. But I also like Phoebe's power of like very much of an empath and could feel and could read other people's minds and stuff like that. But the orbing I wouldn't mind, especially traveling like 6 hours to shows. That would help a lot.
Oh my God, the orbing was amazing.
The taste. The taste.
Mm-hmm.
You said that. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yes. Charmed is an amazing show, and I feel like it should get more credit. It really should.
Yeah. It
It
should.
should definitely
It
get more credit.
I think there's a lot of girls in wrestling that have watched. I think you could tell. Well, Saraya, she came up with the name Paige from that show.
I
Because that was her favorite character. Again, wrestling nerd. I would feel so awkward if I ever meet her one day. I'll be like, I like Charm too. But yeah, so it's really cool. 90s man, late 90s, early 2000s shows, nothing could attest to them. I swear.
That's true.
Absolutely. And our last hot tag question is, it's fall and it's also known as spooky season, of course, even though we are headed into November and we're in the Thanksgiving side of things. Name 3 things you like to do during the fall season.
During the fall season. I don't like pumpkin spice, but I like pumpkin. 2 very different tastes. I don't get the pumpkin spice thing. I don't get it. But yeah, so like Dunkin' Donuts when they have their pumpkin donuts. Oof, so good. So I definitely binge out on all the pumpkin stuff that's around. If I could find it, that's at pumpkin spice. So get an alternative, mother effers. So that if I can, me and my friends, what we would do is every year we'd go to like a pumpkin patch. Again, it's harder because I'm traveling and stuff, so we don't do it as much. And have a lot of bonfires. That would be the last thing. A lot of s'mores. Sometimes I make them in the house.
All of that sounds really cozy. I really like that a lot. I want to go back to the pumpkin patch myself, actually. I haven't been in years. So, yes, definitely. Well, Missa Kate, thank you so much for joining us on Women's Wrestling Talk. So please tell everybody where they can find and follow you on social media and what you've got going on.
All right, you're asking me stuff that I remember. We'll see if I can. So Instagram and Twitter is Missa Kate 11, MISSAKATE 11, and then I have an OnlyFans, which I believe is just Missa Kate. I have a YouTube channel, Missa Kate. Pro Wrestling Tees store, Missa Kate. T Public store, Missa Kate. I always have more stuff that I can never think about. But yeah, and then I also want to say I'm a part of, so you can see them here, Team Bully. I just want to give them a little shout out. They're really cool. Definitely look at them. I think I'm sorry, Team Bully. Bully Brand is the name. Team Bully is what we say we are. So I think they're Bully Brand on Instagram and whatnot. They're really good cause. They help all the little pitties and stuff like that. So yeah, so I think that's all I got.
Awesome. Well, Shay, thank you for joining me for this interview. And considering this was your first time, you did a fantastic job. So let everybody know where they can find and follow you and what you've got going on.
Yes. Well, for all of my social media, Instagram, Twitter, I'm sure there's something else. It's all Shay Sawyer. Also, my Twitch is Shay Sawyer. Everything is that. And I have actually tomorrow NXT review for Unpopular Review. So that's what I'll be doing.
There you go. You got through it. Ooh.
First, and you're amazing. I love your taste. I just love what you do, and I just can't wait to see you flourish. And I know you are because I just have watched your work in the ring. Their match with Madi, like I was like, oh, yeah, she's that girl. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That means a lot. I'm excited to meet the future worlds.
The charm. We're the charm. Right.
I love it.
Yes, and I can't wait to see you flourish as well. Now that I've met you, I'm so happy, to hear what your work is, and I cannot wait to see you flourish a whole lot more. But in the meantime, of course, you can follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram and Twitter at Queen Steph Hardy, and also follow my show, The Hardy Wrestling Podcast, everywhere you get your podcasts, and follow it on Instagram at Hardy Wrestling Podcast and on Twitter at Hardy Wrestle Pod. And yes, my last name really is Hardy by blood.
I was going to ask you that at the beginning.
Yes, it is. It's not something I just picked up. It really is my last name by blood, full on.
It was meant to be. It was meant to be, man.
Totally meant to be. That's literally how I feel. But of course, remember, you can follow Women's Wrestling Talk on Instagram and Twitter at WW Talk Pod. Check out our website at www.talkpod.com and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at WW Talk Pod, and just continue to support us on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook at Women's Wrestling Talk. So this has been Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. And until next time, bye, y'all.